Somewhere along your journey of awakening, maybe after a powerful spiritual insight or a tough personal breakdown, you felt something shift inside. Suddenly, the illusions, the endless patterns, the noisy chaos around you all became clear. Then came silence. At first, it was intense, even empowering. But slowly, that deep sense of meaning started to fade away, not with a bang, but quietly, like your soul just turned down the volume on life and forgot to turn it back up. You stopped chasing. You stopped caring. Not in a reckless or dramatic way, more like a soft, existential sigh settling over you. And then the question began whispering louder and louder. Why? Why do I feel so numb now when I finally see the truth? It's a strange paradox. We expect spiritual awakening to light a fire under us, to ignite our passion and energy. But for so many, especially those who are deeply introspective, the empaths, the seekers, it does exactly the opposite. It empties us. I remember talking with a friend, someone incredibly bright and spiritually tuned in, devouring every book by Eckhart Tolle, Alan Watts, Krishna, and more. She had a massive awakening after what she called a dark night of the soul. She said she saw through the illusions of identity, ego, and the endless chase for external success. She understood it all, but just 2 months later, I found her staring at her ceiling, barely able to get out of bed. She told me, "I used to cry because I wasn't achieving enough. Now, I don't even care if I do anything at all. I thought awakening would light me up, not leave me like this." Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, hinted at this post-awakening fog many years ago. He didn't speak in trendy spiritual terms, but he understood what happens when the unconscious becomes conscious. Jung said, "Enlightenment doesn't come by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." That sounds poetic and beautiful until you realize what it truly means. Awakening isn't the end. It's the beginning of a psychological death. The death of who you thought you were. The structures that once gave your life meaning, your goals, your career, your relationships, even your sense of time, all collapse. But here's the catch. Jung points out your ego isn't gone. It's just confused. It's lost its map. And without a new map, motivation disappears. So, it's not that you're depressed or have lost motivation. You're just in limbo. You've woken up from something old, but you haven't yet woken up into something new. Here's where it gets fascinating and often misunderstood. What you're feeling right now isn't failure. It's not clinical depression or anxiety. It's something ancient and sacred. Jung actually warned that our modern world avoids this phase at all costs. The sacred pause, the void, the in-between. He believed this phase is essential for true individuation, the process of becoming your authentic self. But no one talks about this part, do they? And that's exactly what we're going to unravel next. What's really happening inside your psyche after awakening, and why this loss of motivation might actually be the biggest spiritual upgrade you've ever experienced, if you understand it the right way. Before we continue, if you love expanding your mind and diving deep into the mysteries of life, make sure to subscribe to Fractal Wisdom. This channel exists to make the invisible visible and to support those navigating the weird and wild path of awakening. So, if you've been floating in that post-awakening fog, wondering where your spark went, no, you're not crazy that you're going through a profound psychological shift. Most people can't even name this change because it's so deep it doesn't just tweak your thinking. It reprograms your entire operating system. All those goals you chased, the endless to-do lists, the 5-year plans, the hustle culture playlists, they don't move you anymore. Not because you're failing, but because your motivation system itself is collapsing. And Carl Jung saw this coming long before it became a popular topic on social media. Let's break this down. For most of your life, your motivation came from your ego, the identity you thought you were. You wanted to prove yourself, be seen, be successful, be loved. That's not a bad thing. It's just how human development works. Jung called this the persona, the mask we wear to function in society. But the awakening process strips away that mask. Suddenly, you're not trying to be liked or win the game anymore because you see the game for what it really is. And that's when it gets weird. Without that mask, your old goals don't fit anymore. They were designed for a version of you that no longer exists. So now, you feel like an actor who stepped off the stage and can't remember their lines. That's why you feel unmotivated. You didn't lose your drive. You simply outgrew the fuel that powered it. Carl Jung believed we're not here to serve the ego, but to integrate it, to align it with something bigger. He named this process individuation, the journey of transforming from a fragmented identity into a whole, unified self. Not the small self that craves praise, but the self that transcends, the soul-level center inside you that connects to everything. And this self doesn't care about status, approval, or even clarity. It's here to express truth. Once awakening happens, your psyche starts to recalibrate. It begins rejecting anything fake, forced, or ego-based. That includes jobs, relationships, ambitions, even your carefully crafted dream board from 2021. That's why people often describe awakening as both freeing and disorienting. But Jung warned, if we stop here, we get stuck. Some people awaken and fall into the trap of spiritual bypassing, convincing themselves that nothing matters, that it's all just illusion. So they disconnect, float, and numb out. They confuse detachment with disengagement, but the self wants something different. It wants to live through you. It wants to bring heaven into this human body. It doesn't reject the world. It redefines your role in it. To step into that, you have to go through a weird middle phase. Jung described it perfectly, yet few recognize it while they're in it. There's a phase after awakening that almost no one talks about. It's not glamorous, and it doesn't get thousands of likes. It doesn't look like meditating in a barley field or writing profound Instagram quotes. It looks like this: sitting in silence, unable to explain yourself, while the world rushes by. Carl Jung would say you're not lost. You're in between. You've disidentified from the ego but haven't yet found a new way to live from the self. This space isn't failure. It's a rite of passage. But in our hyperproductive world, stillness gets misdiagnosed as laziness, pause mistaken for paralysis. So you judge yourself, and that judgment blocks the very energy your soul is trying to call back. Jung had a term for this psychological pause. He called it enantiodromia, the process where things flip into their opposite. When you awaken, your inner pendulum swings from ego-driven striving to soul-level stillness. You go from, I must do everything, to why do anything? And this swing is sacred. It's how balance is restored. In myth and ancient teachings, this is the hermit phase, the death before rebirth. It's the moment the caterpillar turns into soup inside the cocoon. Not a butterfly yet, not a bug anymore, just goo. And yeah, goo doesn't get stuff done. It doesn't hustle. It dissolves. This is where the ego panics. It wants action, identity, direction. But the self is whispering, let go. I'm building something deeper. Here's where most modern spirituality skips the hard stuff. It teaches just follow your joy, or high vibes only. And while intention and energy matter, Carl Jung would tell you, if you try to skip the darkness, you skip the gold. Jung believed shadow integration, facing the repressed, uncomfortable parts of yourself, is essential for becoming whole. It's not optional or extra credit. It's the core curriculum of being a human soul. This sacred nothingness you feel is where the unconscious finally has space to rise. That you're not failing. You're metabolizing. Your psyche is incredibly wise. It will stall your motivation, your drive, even your access to clarity and purpose so that you're forced to feel, witness, and reclaim what you've buried. That's the real work. And here's the beautiful twist. When you stop resisting the void, something strange starts to happen. Motivation begins to return, but it feels different this time. That it's not anxious. It's not performative. It's not about hustle. It's something older, something quieter. A kind of soul-led movement that feels like remembering instead of chasing. Jung called this the emergence of the self, not as a concept, but as a living, inner compass that you've walked through the void, felt the silence, the stillness, the deep pause, and now something new is starting to stir inside you. Not like a lightning bolt or fireworks, more like a quiet inner pull. Not to go back to your old life, but to build a new one. This is where the self begins to speak, not in words, but in nudges, in resonance, in what Carl Jung called the symbolic life. That he believed that once the ego has surrendered and the unconscious is integrated, we become capable of living from a place deeper than personality. That's when life stops being about survival and becomes about meaning. And here's an unexpected fact. When the self leads, life is often beautifully ordinary. You don't hustle. You respond. That you're not motivated by fear of missing out. You're guided by what feels aligned. You don't chase clarity. You recognize it when it arrives. Living from the self doesn't mean you'll always feel motivated in the traditional sense. You might still feel waves of fatigue, confusion, even grief. That's being human. But what you won't feel is that constant inner betrayal, the feeling of dragging yourself through a life that doesn't fit. Instead, you might notice you're drawn to create even when no one's watching. You say no to things that don't resonate, even if they look good on paper. You start following your curiosity, not your checklist. You choose peace over performance. This is the new fuel. It's not adrenaline. It's alignment. Jung called this living symbolically, not in fantasy, but with soul, where you trust your inner imagery, dreams, synchronicities, and gut feelings as guidance. Oh, what does this look like in real life? Sometimes, it's as simple as asking different questions. Instead of what should I do, ask, what's quietly calling me? Instead of what's the plan, ask, where is life nudging me? Instead of how can I prove myself, ask, what feels honest? You begin to participate with life instead of trying to dominate it. And this doesn't mean giving up ambition. It means transforming it. Ambition becomes devotion to truth, to presence, to growth. And here's the irony. That kind of energy gets things done far more effectively than ego ever could. But now it's sustainable. Now it's soul-powered. This is the self's motivation, not to impress, but to express. And it often leads you to create, serve, heal, teach, and build, not because you should, but because your whole being says yes. If you've been feeling like your spark is gone after awakening, remember, it's the old fire burning down so you can find a deeper flame. Point 1 that doesn't flicker when the winds outside blow. Carl Jung never promised an easy path. And if you're here listening, you're already walking that path. That it's not about getting back your old motivation, that it's about discovering a new one rooted in wholeness, not performance. This isn't the end of your awakening, that it's the beginning of your becoming. If this spoke to you, if it helped you name something you've been silently navigating, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear what this journey has felt like for you. And if you want more content like this, where we explore psychology, soul, and self-awareness in ways that actually make sense for real life, make sure to subscribe to Fractal Wisdom. Because awakening isn't the end of the story, that it's where the real story begins. If this message resonated with you, you're not alone, and your journey matters. Awakening is just the start of becoming who you truly are. So, if you're ready to step deeper into your transformation and uncover more hidden truths about the soul and psyche, hit that subscribe button now. Don't keep this awakening experience to yourself. Share this video with friends or anyone feeling lost in their spiritual path. Together, we can create a community that embraces the real challenges and breakthroughs of awakening. Remember, the path may be challenging, but it's also deeply beautiful. And here, you'll always find understanding and guidance. Join us at Fractal Wisdom and keep walking this incredible journey of becoming. Your next level self is waiting.